Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Super Bowl LIX, to quote the great Gronk, Super Bowl LIX or 59 prediction. Well, for the Fanatic and for every NFL fan out there, we have come to the very happy but sad conclusion of the 2024-2025 NFL season. 284 games have been played. 32 teams have played games through this 284 game stretch, and we are down to the final two. It has been an absolute joy to pick games this entire year. Obviously, the best picking stretch that I have had in my picking tenure. I am very happy with that. So last week or 2 weeks ago in the conference championship games, I was perfect. I went 2-0 against the spread. Both teams covered the spreads, and both teams obviously won straight up as the favorites covered. So I'm very happy about that. So now overall for the postseason, through 12 games, I am now 6-5-1 against the spread, which equals 54.2%. And straight up now, I am 8-4, which is 66.7 or 67%, or 2 out of 3 games. I am very thrilled of how this year ended up, being at least 500 or above 500 in my postseason picks is a very good spot. And now overall for the year, through 284 games each, I am now 148, 129, and 7 against the spread. My best against the spread picking perspective ever, 53.4%. I do not know if I can ever top that number against the spread for an entire year again. So I'm just going to enjoy this year and hope that next year when I do these videos, we'll be in a very different conversation. And straight up, hitting over 200 wins with under 84 losses is very impressive. My highest winning percentage all time, just in pure picking the games, 202 and 82 straight up, which equals 71.1%. Which, again, personal best for both. I am incredibly thrilled to be in this position. But, to look at the NFC and AFC Championship games very quickly, the NFC Championship game, what an absolute beatdown by the Philadelphia Eagles over the Washington Commanders. 55 to, I believe, 23-24. 55-24, a 31-point absolute blowout. The Commanders, I actually had some confidence. They were driving down the field, getting fourth down conversions, and then all of a sudden, when they got in field goal range, they said, nah, we're good. And they kicked the field goal, and then what happens? The very next play, Saquon Barkley burst for a 70-yard run, and the Eagles never looked back from that moment on. Congrats to the Eagles. I believe this is their their fourth Super Bowl appearance since 2000. One of the best consistent modern franchises since the turn of the century. Incredibly impressive, and job well done there. But looking at what the Eagles had to do, they also forced turnovers. They forced the Washington Commanders had only committed 20 turnovers the entire year. Half of those turnovers come through 3 games by the Philadelphia Eagles, which, again, that's an incredibly impressive mark. Jalen Hurts now has the all-time rushing touchdown record for the postseason. He surpassed Steve Young with his 3 rushing touchdowns, including another brotherly shove in the NFC Championship game. The Eagles have been one of the more complete teams in the league. Their defense is young with talent on the front end and the back end. Jalen played, obviously, I think the second best postseason game of his career. 246 yards passing, 4 total touchdowns, second Super Bowl in 5 years. And again, I will say this. I think Jalen Hurts, to me, and I am a Raven fan, and I have no problem saying this, Jalen Hurts has earned the right to me to be considered the second best quarterback going into next year, regardless of win or lose this Sunday in New Orleans in the Super Bowl. Regardless of win or lose, if the performance is good, if he absolutely lays an egg against the Kansas City Chiefs, you can make the point that Josh Allen or Joe Burrow have made that kind of ascension because in the big game, they, came up, didn't come up big enough. And then, for the Chiefs, job well done. I was surprised. Everybody believed in the Buffalo Bills, and it's essentially, to me, we are living in a Tom Brady type era to where everybody just knows that until somebody beats the king, I'm a wrestling fan. There's one of the great phrases from Ric Flair saying, to be the man, you gotta beat the man. And the Chiefs just fundamentally made the plays when they had to. And, for the Chiefs, this is a story that they're used to. They are the first team in 9 tries to get to a three-peat, and they're going to be the first team that actually can do it. Obviously my Super Bowl pick, if only I had seen in the back there, if only I had switched the Eagle with the Lion, I could have been right all along. I knew the Eagles were going to be a very good football team. I knew that they were going to have a very, impressive roster, so that's why I put them in the center there. But I didn't think that, they were going to get there. I knew from the beginning of the year the Chiefs had enough talent and consistency and enough confidence to believe that I knew that they could get there. And obviously, I think the other problem is for the Bills. Now, Josh Allen's lost 4 consecutive postseason games against Patrick Mahomes, and you feel like in the AFC, you've lost all hope. That nobody in that conference, outside of Joe Burrow, and that's the crazy thing, is that, again, Joe Burrow over the last couple years, I don't know if people would say, that he is the second best quarterback. I'm not Chris Canty. I'm not going to go full Canty and go, he's not an elite quarterback, because he is. But you could make a strong argument today, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, that Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the entire league, because he's the only active quarterback outside of Tom Brady to beat Patrick in a playoff game, which is worth its weight in industrial carbonite gold. That you could make that claim for Joe Burrow for the rest of his career until somebody else beats him in the postseason. Because that's the only hope you have. Because everybody else in the AFC, every good team in the AFC either doesn't have nearly enough talent to compete against him, or they've competed against him enough times that there is PTSD scarring from Bills fans and Raven fans and Bengal fans and Charger fans and every fan base in the AFC that know that they can't beat this man. Even the Texans now have been scarred twice this past year, where you could argue the Texans outplayed them in the divisional round. But, for the Chiefs, what a moment for them for history. I am rooting against the history because I think even though it's a cool moment, I always like seeing, I've always wanted parity over dynasty. Parity is more exciting because it gives fans, and I want to have some hope that somebody can beat the Chiefs. But, to me, I look at the Kansas, City Chiefs and what they did against the Buffalo Bills. They executed better. And when it came at the end, Spags knows exactly what to do, and you know what he can do. He can hit those blitzes. And it got Josh Allen to throw up a pretty impressive pass regardless to Dalton Kincaid, who, as a Raven fan, we know what happens with tight ends dropping the football. Again, obviously our issues in Baltimore off the field, or that's a totally different story. That if you want to get my opinions, let me know. I'm not gonna go into the Justin Tucker, or I'm not gonna go into that Justin Tucker situation because that is not what this is about today. But enough of my quick thoughts on that. My Super Bowl prediction: the 285th game when the Kansas City Chiefs go to Philadelphia in New Orleans. The Eagles are the home team. The Kansas City Chiefs are 1.5 point favorites in this game. Give me Kansas City here, -1.5, and Kansas City straight up. All right, it's time for my thoughts on this game. When you look at this game on paper, the Philadelphia Eagles have a much better roster. They have a better offensive line than the Kansas City Chiefs, because the Chiefs really only have 3 legitimate linemen. Creed Humphrey, their center, Joe Thuney, their left guard, they moved the left tackle, and Trey Smith, who made the Pro Bowl. The other 2 guys are just kind of there. Or Humphreys and Wanye Morris got benched later on in the year. But the Eagles have a better offensive line. They have the better running game. They have the better defensive line as a unit. Because the Chiefs, even though they have Karlaftis and they have Chris Jones, they don't have Jalen Carter. They don't have Nolan Smith. They don't have Zach Bond. They do not have these people that's as loaded as the Chiefs have better safety play. The Eagles have better wide receivers. The tight ends are about to push, but, You might take Dallas and Travis are about a push. You could take Bucker with the kickers, and you could just take the Eagles' ability to say they will run the football. The Eagles are the one team that in the playoffs against Kansas City that I know for without a shadow of a doubt, they will run the air out of the football because they know, even though Eagle fans will acknowledge that, hey, the last time these two guys played in this game 2 years ago, you could make the argument Jalen Hurts played a more complete game than Patrick Mahomes, but Jalen had the turnover where Patrick did not. And that was a difference in the game. Even though there was a face mask, that was not called, but, to be to their, whatever. But when it just comes down to it, I've seen this Chief team all year be overlooked by Bills fans, Raven fans, and they just keep winning games. They have the longest consecutive streak of 18 one-score games. This team all year knows how to win pressure-packed games. And when it just comes down to it, I've done these picks for years. I took the Chiefs and the Eagles, and the same principle applied. I thought the Eagles were the better football team across the board, but the Chiefs had the better quarterback and the better coach, and that won out in the day. I think this Eagles team is better than the 2022 Eagles team. But when it just comes down to it, at the end of the day, if it's going to be a close game, because the only way the Eagles win this game is if they absolutely roll the Chiefs team, and I don't see that happening. I think the Chiefs have, the experience, they have the edge, and the Eagles, I think the Chiefs, they have not given up during this run for Kansas City. They have not given up a 100-yard individual rusher the entire time. Actually, Damian Williams, former obscure Chief running back, is the last guy to run for 100 yards in the Super Bowl over the last 20 years. So, I know what the Eagles have to do. I know what the Chiefs have to do. They just have to avoid Saquon hitting 2 home runs. Because you could look at it, the Commanders, the rest of the way through. But after that 60-yard run, that 70-yard run, they held Saquon to about 49 yards the rest of the way through. Did it matter? No, because Jalen played very well. And I know the Eagles, it is about the confidence in Jalen Hurts and what they want to do. But when you look at the offensive line, when you look at the Chiefs' health, look at the Chiefs' experience, look at the Chiefs' confidence, there is just something about saying this Chief team knows how to win these big moments, and I think they understand what's facing in front of them. The ultimate history for a franchise, a never been done before, winning a 3-peat of Super Bowls. Andy and Patrick go to second all-time definitively in their respective positions in terms of the all-time greats. People might argue Mahomes is the GOAT. I will say, as I've said before, Patrick, and he only has to get 6 rings for me to make that point. 5, I would say, I don't agree with 4 or 5, but 5, at least if you said it, if he wins another ring next year, if you agree with it, if you make that statement, I'm not going to say you're crazy. I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to say you're crazy. But I think Patrick and them, they understand the situation better. I think Andy, I'll trust Andy and Matt to beat Vic slightly, and I'll trust Spags to out-coach Kellen Moore, who is in New Orleans, by the way, and likely on Monday afternoon or Monday evening, we will likely hear that Kellen Moore is the last person to take a head coaching job, as he will take the New Orleans Saints head coaching job, which is the worst job out of the entire cycle in terms of landscape and expectation. But I would say he is the 4th best hire because I would take him over Liam and Brian and Aaron. But, I digress. But when you look at this game, Chiefs offense knows how to win in these big spots. The Eagles defense, they have played well, but it's where they haven't played Patrick. Patrick has not turned it over. Patrick only has had 1 turnover in the last several games. Jalen Hurts is about, I believe, 10 to 15 passes away, breaking the all-time consecutive pass attempt record without throwing an interception. And I think that streak will end. If it doesn't, it's going to be a very close game. But if it comes down to it, if it's going to come down to a kick like it did last time, Jake Elliott's had a pretty, rough postseason where he's missed a couple extra points. He's missed a big 54-yard field goal. And Harrison Butker, who's come back from injury, I just trust Butker to be more clutch to win the game compared to the Eagles. For the Eagles, it's a great moment. Sirianni should finally get a contract extension. Jalen gets made as, an all-time great Eagle quarterback. He paid off a $50 million extension. And the Chiefs, I told you what's at stake for them. I'm just hoping for a, very entertaining, fantastic game. But when I looked at this game, and I looked at all the matchups, I knew the Eagles had the better roster, the better construction, healthier, and just better talent all across the board. But when it came down to, the nuts and bolts, I'm saying, I'll take the better coach, the better quarterback, and the better coordinator. I'll take the coaching over the talent. Eagle fans, everybody, they were going to take the talent and say, okay, the Eagles will rush the air out of the football. Maybe they do. I think the Eagles will get 100 yards on the ground somehow. But I just think the Chiefs will make one fewer mistake or one more bigger play that the Eagles cannot and will not make with Jalen in those spots. So, should be a fantastic game. And again, I'm taking the Chiefs. Reliability, trust, and I just think this game is going to be close. And in a close game, with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, or Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, I'm going to take Andy and Patrick every day of the week, 3 times on Super Bowl Sunday. So, that's why Kansas City are -1.5 and Kansas City straight up. So those are my thoughts on Super Bowl 59. Like, comment, rate, and subscribe. I will be coming out next week, sometime, a President's Day, or this time next Friday, with my Super Bowl, or next Wednesday or Friday, with my 2024-2025 season review video. And I'll tell you my expectation for next year, along with my incredibly early Super Bowl LX 60, the 60th edition of the Super Bowl. My way too early Super Bowl 60 prediction next week, either next Wednesday or Friday. So that is it. So good luck to all players, coaches, teams. Good luck to all the prop bettors out there that are going to make prop bets on the national anthem, to Taylor Swift, to Kendrick Lamar, to squares and all that. Good luck to everybody out there, and let's enjoy the 59th Super Bowl. And hopefully I can go out on the season with a victory. And like I said, I'm taking the Chiefs to beat the Eagles. So that's it, everybody. Like, comment, rate, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, so long.